Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the August 5th Town Hall meeting. And I have a few things I want to open up with, including that Josue Salmaran, our village manager, who would have loved to have been here and you're used to seeing, is taking some well-deserved time off with his family. And I believe he is recreating responsibly. And I want to wish him a little time away to clear his head and continue to help keep up the good work. I also wanted to mention our ASL interpreter, Vicki Wolfgang, shared with me that her daughter is currently in labor, bringing a new wonderful individual into the world. And I expect that this meeting will be relatively short so she can get back to focusing on what's ultimately important, especially in these times. So I'm going to open up with a little bit of context of where we're at with the COVID-19 crisis and highlighting that things are looking good in Greene County. We are still maintaining level 2, and I think a lot of the things that we put into place to make sure to protect our community in Greene County are really working. So a couple things, there have been no new deaths, and in Greene County, we've only had 11 deaths, which has been, not acceptable, but certainly the fact that we're maintaining has been great. Ultimately, we're holding steady, and I think, again, it's because people are doing what they need to do in terms of distancing, wearing their facial coverings, and making sure to use proper hand sanitizing approaches. The other thing is we are statewide not doing as well as we want to do. Today's report indicates that there are 96,305 cases. That is up a bit from the day before by 1,199 cases. And, ultimately, it's important that we understand that while Greene County is remaining steady, we need to also think about folks, from other places in Ohio and the US that are coming into town. And this is why it's important that we stick to our guns in terms of making sure that people are wearing their facial coverings and doing the right thing. The other thing I wanted to mention is that we did complete 5 weeks of a very successful mask ambassador initiative. And some stats on that, we had 32 volunteers giving out over 1,000 masks. We had hundreds of thank yous from folks coming into town who felt safe and really appreciated our positive approach to good behavior. The upshot in terms of our local economy is that we had 19 local businesses contribute masks, which ultimately generated over $2,000 to support our local economy. And I do want to again thank the Yellow Springs Community Foundation and the Yellow Springs Chamber for working with the village to support this initiative. We will not be, at least in the short term, continuing the Mask Ambassador initiative. We feel that it's had a great impact, but we do want to make sure that people continue to have masks, and we will, as we've done with everything else, continue to evaluate what we need to do to keep our community safe. I wanted to mention a few village actions that have led to the amazing success that we've seen. Signage and messaging has been really important, and while we really appreciate the Be Kind approach, we have also been very clear about what you must do when you're downtown in terms of distancing and mask wearing. We also have initiated the positive reinforcement with our mask ambassadors and with our approach from our peace officers. And we have our chief, Brian Carlson, who will talk more about what's been going on from his perspective. Again, we need you to report any violations of the statewide mandate as well as our local laws around this. And I think what's important to keep in mind is that we are taking an approach that is not overly punitive, that involves civil penalties if we need to go in that direction. But ultimately, it's about offering people a mask and making sure that they're understanding the implications around keeping the public safe. The last thing is I want to send out a huge shout out to our Yellow Springs peace officers, because no one can really comprehend what it is like to deal with someone who is adamant that they have a right to not wear a mask. And it's ironic to me that in these discussions about our rights, no one is talking about the fact that the basic principle of our rights are that they extend to the point where if you violate someone else's rights, then we got a problem. And this is what we're talking about here. I agree that people have rights, but when they start to endanger public safety and people's health, that's where we have to draw a line. And that is the bottom line principle, whether we're talking about the Constitution or anything else. And this is what we're trying to recognize and balance here. So our chief is going to talk a little bit more about some of our difficult cases. And so I want to pass things over to Chief Carlson, and I'll come back and talk a little bit more about how the village is moving forward in a positive manner. So, Chief.
Thanks, Brian. I guess tonight is the Brian and Brian show. And happy to be here, folks. I've written some notes down, but I did them quickly, so I will try to create something as articulate as I can. First off, I'd like to do my shout out to the Community Foundation. A heartfelt thanks from the village, our citizens, our visitors, and your peace officers for all the tireless devotion that you've given to this crisis. Thank you for the generosity. We are all in this together. I'd like to do a special shout out to Home Inc. and Emily Seibel. Thank you for what you have done. Emily secured a grant that our community outreach program is putting together, and we've begun this week picking up where the schools had to leave off, providing meals to families in town. And that will continue through the end of the month. Thank you, everyone, for that. My message tonight is just something that I think we all can connect with, and that is that we are all in this together. Been used over and over again, but I've had some interactions with residents that are out of work, and I hear their stories, and as my youngest would say, it hurts the heart. Our youngest was notified on Friday that college has been canceled. Move-in was supposed to be on the 17th, so that's extremely disheartening. We are all in this together. Your peace officers, with the national spotlight on the horrific death of Mr. Floyd, the shooting in Atlanta, and tonight the anniversary of the tragic death of John Crawford III. Perhaps take a moment sometime tonight, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and remember we are all in this together. And our mission together as humans is to make a better place for all of us. I had an amazing conversation today with someone who shared a story with me. The vehicle broke down. They did what they were supposed to, contacted the towing company and were in wait. And the next thing they knew, a police officer arrived. The police officer was complimented on the service and what they offered, but it still, rang the bell that, these folks were afraid. And it made me start to think, someone called in on a suspicious vehicle. No one went out to see if folks were okay. The onus was now put on the police officers to figure out what had transpired and offer help to the person. But that didn't change the feeling of being alone, being left out there. And that's not the type of community that we are. I'd like everyone to try to consider elevating our kindness levels to one another, to the fellow humans that we see. We have the largest homeless population in Yellow Springs currently that I've seen in 12 years. We are all in this together. I don't think it's any secret that we have one particular location down that has been problematic regarding masks, regarding social distancing. I want to say that I worked with the business owner, the owner of the building, the fire department, public health department. We all met. I was proud that the owner of the business understood the situation and offered to cancel what they offer on Thursday nights, open mic night. The thing that I'd like to express to most of you in the community that know about this problem or have issues with it is this is primarily our largest population that is in need. We are caring for them on a daily basis, meals, vouchers, sleeping bags. We are trying to assist in any way we can without bringing the law into these folks' lives. And I believe that's what you've tasked me to do as your police chief. Our officers have worked tirelessly since the beginning of this, nonstop, nothing's changed, responding to the needs of the village. We've had a rough ride, as we all know. We are all in this together. So one other thing I want to mention, Yellow Springs Police Department is working on a training policy with dispatch. We are going to be screening and questioning calls now regarding suspicious persons, vehicles, or activity. I believe that it's only fair to the people that we are calling on, to the people that are calling, and to the officers that are responding. The difficulty in people calling in that drive by and see a cluster of young people waiting to play their song at open mic is that it's not affecting you at the moment. Yes, there may be a breach in our current ordinance, but remember, take a deep breath. We are all in this together. Please don't forget that this is the anniversary of the tragic loss of Mr. John Crawford III. I can't imagine the pain that his family must feel. There will be a small gathering this evening in peace at the corner of Xenia and Limestone. We will be there to help everyone maintain safety. But if you have the chance, please come out and join in memory of John Crawford III. Thank you. Back to you, Brian.
Thank you, Brian. And just to confirm, that gathering begins at 8 p.m. tonight, is that right?
Correct. I don't have many details, but I think they're going to start at 8 there, and then they plan on a small march, and we will keep things as safe as we can.
Okay. And you know, that is meeting, I know, on, you know, right there on Limestone and Xenia Avenue. And I also want to encourage everyone to join. I think it's appropriate at this time to have a moment of silence for John Crawford and for the fact that Black Lives Matter. Thank you, everyone. I wanted to, Chief, while we've got you on the line, to highlight a question that I believe was not addressed from our last meeting, and I'm going to go ahead and read that. This was a person that said, I witnessed a physical encounter in front of Current Cuisine between an adult and a younger person in his 20s after the older person commented on the young person not wearing his mask over his face. It was under his chin. Should we advise citizens not to openly confront people who are being blatantly antagonistic?
Absolutely. First and foremost, if you have any type of fear please give us a call. Our officers will respond in the fashion that we always do. But definitely, someone needs to be the grown up. And I would suggest to keep your loved ones safe, yourself safe. If you see a situation that looks as if it's unsafe under our current circumstances, please just avoid the situation if you can. That's the best thing you can do. I think we do have some citizens, some visitors that, they're looking for a fight, and don't bring that upon yourself. Confrontation, that's the work that we do. So please, just take a deep breath and remember we're all in this together.
Thank you, Chief. Yeah, I want to reiterate, some things that, I've had, discussions with folks about, their concerns about our intent on enforcing public safety. And I just want to say there's no fear from the village of, not approaching these matters in a way that's going to be effective. But I do hope that people understand that enforcement, when people are adamant about not following the law, is not an easy thing. And Yellow Springs is not about being punitive, putting people in jail, creating havoc in their lives. And I understand how we are all so stressed and frustrated around what's going on with COVID-19 and this pandemic. But the reality is we need to be intentional. We need to be kind. We need to think about how we do things in a way that's actually going to make a difference. And escalation and other aspects are not the way to solve these problems. So we know some of the difficult points, and they have become fewer and fewer as a variety of people. I mentioned on Facebook, wow, Kelly Gray was wearing a mask last weekend after months of refusing to do so. It does work when you are kind and calm and approach these matters in an intentional way. And I've been really impressed with Chief Carlson and our police team and the way that they've approached this, which has been in line with working with council and everyone else on the village team to really make a difference. The other thing I want to emphasize is I do not believe there's another community in the U.S. that is seeing the compliance that we are. And I agree it's not always 100%, but I do want to remind you that there are aspects such as distancing and other things that play into the mix. So we will continue to approach this in an effective way. And again, we need our citizens to let us know when these violations are occurring so that we can approach them in the proper manner. The only other things I want to say tonight, if we have any questions or comments, are that we are, first of all, continuing our hand sanitizer program. And so Josue has mentioned this a couple times, and I want to reiterate that local businesses and nonprofits can now come to our utility window to fill up their hand sanitizer bottles. We are also continuing to supply our, I believe, 22 or so hand sanitizer stations around town to promote that piece of the safety piece. The other thing is I want to highlight that our focus is on moving forward in terms of economic recovery. And so I'm really happy about the fact that we've gotten good funds from the CARES Act, from the law enforcement funding, and we're now looking at what we can get from FEMA to cover all the expenses that have happened related to COVID-19. The village is in great shape. We are, early on, we made sure to keep track of all these expenses, and we're getting compensated in that regard. but we are also focusing on what we need to do ahead to keep our community sustainable, successful, and ultimately providing for all of our citizens. So it's great that the county is supporting our local businesses by using some of those CARES Act monies to support grants for businesses that are struggling. As many people know, early on, the village made sure to provide funds to support our local businesses as well. And we are continuing to do everything we can within our means to make sure that our community remains positive and moving in the right direction. But I will say that while we will continue to monitor public safety and make sure that people are complying with the right behaviors, we also are looking forward to how we continue to, I guess, approach these opportunities. And those include a lot of businesses that are considering how they can expand and come into our community and really move things forward. So there's a lot of great things going on. I would encourage people to look at what the Yellow Springs Development Corporation is doing to provide capacity in that regard, what the village is doing to make sure that we're looking at the overall health and well-being of our community. And it's a hard and sad time, but it's also an exciting time for us to make sure that the village of Yellow Springs continues to be a great model for the region, the state, and the nation, and also to make sure that our citizens and our businesses thrive. So with that, Philip, do we have any questions? I don't see any in the chat.
No, there are no further questions.
Okay. Well, I encourage everyone to get out to Limestone and Xenia and be involved in the vigil that is going to happen at 8 o'clock. And I want to thank Chief and his team for continuing to be thoughtful and careful. And we're going to continue to protect our community and move forward and stay focused on the ultimate goals. So thanks, everyone. Have a great evening and be safe, be kind, and take care.